like to share a dream experience that was one of my most profound of witnessing satanic and evil forces and horrific kind of initiation rites I was shown. But the reason that I'm sharing this with you is because I had an experience of God the Father that was kind of illustrating that I was being called forth into a specific part of my mission. And because this dream is from March the 16th, 2015, I had no idea at that time that I, with Sisterhood, would be making exorcism blessed sacramental kits and all of the prayers and whatnot for consecrating your home and protecting yourself from spiritual attack and spiritual warfare. I had no idea I would be doing that kind of work. So this dream was even more poignant because it shows or highlights that I'm being called forward to act more powerfully against Satan and evil forces in this time. And it had to do with being initially in an empty parking lot, much like the one we are today outside of a church. And of course the churches right now in June when we are filming are definitely much emptier, though they have most of them opened. We're operating at reduced capacity. So things are very different in our church life in general. And the first part of this dream experience, it basically showed me the church sliced open, as it were, so that I could see the interior of the church. And I was completely dressed in white, and I also saw that there were others in the church seated in the pews and that they were also dressed in white. And of course that is likened to being the bride dressed in white for the bridegroom, who is Jesus Christ, and the church is the bride of Christ. But then I found myself called to a little room within this building, and it was to go and speak to God the Father, and there was a very specific mission being granted to me. And as I stepped into it, I just saw God in the image of a circle sitting on a shelf. I have to be completely accurate with this dream representation. I do not know why it appeared thus to me, but it did. And I was asking, is there something else I'm to do with my work and my mission? Because obviously I've been doing quite a bit through the Deliverance Network and my prayer life over the last 15 to 20 years. And I was pleading with God, so lead me, where am I to go next? And he paused, he did not answer me right away, and then he said only 3 words, and he said, "It is time." And as I pondered him saying this, he then led me into kind of a mission room, and he opened a door and I was to enter it, and when I went into it, it became like a change room. And in that room, after that, I did not see God any longer, but I was in the room and I was told basically I would have to be entering into some kind of undercover work covertly against Satan and dark forces, and that I was to travel without any belongings, without a purse even. So I really likened that to the early apostles as they walked and they were taught by Jesus to just go without even, your purse or your bag, and rely on the providence. And so when I was led and opened the door on the other side of this room, I saw that I have been called to enter into the heaviest spiritual warfare one can do. The room was absolutely full with Satanists, witches, witchcraft, Satan himself, possessed persons, operating in the occult, demons, and it was absolutely horrific spiritual warfare. And Satan himself just seething at anger and whatnot in this dream experience. And I was basically shown that I would have to just enter quietly and do this work against him in this time that we're coming to. And I'm going to share another dream experience that ties into that, that illustrates the period that we have entered into, this definitive end times battle against Satan, the deceiver. But we have obviously chosen to be on the right side with God the Father, so it is not to fear, and not everyone's call is to enter into this heavier spiritual warfare. So I definitely do not want anyone to fear. If you have been called into this heavier work, you already likely know it, or your life circumstances through God the Father and his providence have already prepared you for that work should you be called to do it in the future. So this is not as a witness for you to fear, but as a witness that it's definitely part of my call to become heavier and more front lines, as it were, in this battle, and to witness to the fact that the coming times are filled with a lot of the occult and the action of Satan and demons. I've spoken about this before, that their time is very short, and so the power and the efforts that they have are being amped up against us, the children of God. But we just need to stay firm in our path and work as much as we can for whatever God's called you to do your mission for the times we're in today. I'm going to share 2 very short dream experiences with you. One of them particularly ties into the times that we are entering and the protection that is being placed over all of us who have chosen God. But the first one was a warning as to the times we're entering. And this is from the last week of Lent, and this was from March, April 2007. It was a very, very short, brief dream experience where an evil spirit came to me while I was sleeping and was deliciously and mockingly speaking to me that it was his time now, or his time was coming up. And he told me with great evil delight, and they do delight in their evil, it's sad to say. He told me with great evil delight that his name was Baal, and I leave it to others to look up the meaning of Baal as a demon. And the other dream message is one to illustrate the protection that we have against Satan, demons, and the evil of our times, and that is the, as I've been witnessing to for quite some time now, the choosing of God, the choosing of Christ, the choosing of following the gospel. And this is a very short dream I've shared with you before, but I'm putting it here again so that we have this firmly entrenched, so we do not fear the times that are here or the times that are coming. That I dreamt that the mark of Christ is going to be placed over all of the doors of those who are serving God, and this was somehow tied to one word, and the word was Deuteronomy. So definitely get out your Bibles and do some reading about Deuteronomy. And when I talk about the times we're in and the times coming, it's a little bit fitting, a little bit eerie that we're filming from the area of Craig Henry, where several tornadoes went through not long ago, a year or so ago, and created quite a bit of amazing destruction in an area where you would not expect to see tornadoes in Ottawa destroying homes. And so this is the upheaval, the sin and the errors of mankind are apparently, through visionaries we've heard, causing great upheaval in the universe itself. And so we are seeing an increasing of the labor pains that we have been told are coming. And the labor pains will see increased storms and tornadoes, earthquakes, etc. But we are not to fear, we are to pay attention to the signs of the times and commit ourselves to Christ so that we stand in pure safety and be one of those that has the mark of Christ placed over our doors. Well, we're still here in the community of Arlington Woods that saw great destruction recently with unexpected tornadoes. And I'm going to share this dream experience because it's one of the darker ones, and it has Satan and how he is allied at the present time with more of like a Nazi theme. And I don't say this to target Germany specifically, but rather likening it to the times of that Nazi oppression. And this is a dream from November the 10th, 2007. And I basically just dreamt that I was in a two-story home, and on the second floor there were many, many filing cabinets filled to the brim with elaborate paperwork. And it had to do with Germany, just as saying that because that's the truth of the dream experience, but I leave it to others more knowledgeable than me as to what may or may not be occurring in world politics in this time. And I was obtaining information ahead of time, and this information was tied to many biographies and pictures of world leaders and prominent persons in the world. And these prominent world leaders and persons were allied with this Nazi type situation. Again, this is likened to that new world order, the one world government that is being spoken about in our times, that is probably not too far away as many are speculating. And Satan, I was shown, is very much in the thick of all of this work. He was hooded, cloaked, a very dark figure. He was smugly discussing the fact that he was tightly in league with all of these world leaders in this Nazi regime type situation. I could not see his face in this dream experience, thank heavens, because he's been very, very ugly and evil and oppressive in many experiences that I've seen of Satan. But he was very shrouded in darkness and heavily cloaked. And I think that that itself is somewhat indicative of the fact that Satan is very much at work in what is occurring in our world, behind the scenes of what we see on the surface with politics, with the world. Many people are completely unaware that there is this spiritual battle that is being played out, and that we are in fact entering the end times, where Satan is coming into his decisive point of battle and trying to take down as many people as possible before he is crushed by Mary, the Virgin Mary of God. of Jesus. So he was very shrouded in darkness, and at present he currently is still shrouded and heavily cloaked behind the scenes. But I was in this dream experience even then aware not to engage or enter into any conversation about him, but I have to convey how he appeared to me in this experience, and this is how he is in general. In his nature, he can't be anything other than what he is. He was very sly, very slippery, smooth, confident, slimy, prideful, smug, but he was almost relaxed and baitful in this experience because he's just so thrilled to have roped so many people into being in alignment and in service to him. And after I was basically given this information to bring it to people and basically share the fact, well, I was shown this, and perhaps it might help some people in the world to wake up to the fact that what we see on the surface with government politics, there's a lot more going on than we are aware of, and it is definitely part of the spiritual battle of our times. And so it's a call. This is not conspiracy theory. This is just the truth of the Bible. Read Revelation, read Matthew, read Jesus' words. We're entering into that time where there's going to be a more overt clash between the forces of darkness and the forces of good. Well, I'm going to share yet again another totalitarian world domination type dream experience that I received sometime between December 4th and 6th, 2007. I did not record the exact date, but it started with me being in a parking lot, and I looked up and I could see behind the clouds like stealth planes secretly filling the skies, coming from everywhere and traveling very silently and visibly across the sky in honestly massive invasion hordes. And I could see that they were moving in unison, and they were going to be launching a very sudden worldwide invasion. In this dream experience, I showed them from west to east. Not sure if there's any symbolism that's relevant there, but they were moving in unified cohesion west to east, and honestly they were really everywhere. And then all of a sudden, what I can only describe as attack began, and it started to be basically militia rule or a totalitarian government type of situation. And I was gathered with a small group, and we were as if going to, again, that state of refuge. And we were discussing strategy. And in this dream experience, I was shown that God is allowing all of this for a purpose. God is basically going to sift the earth. I heard no verbatim words here. It was just an awareness that was given to me in the dream, that we need to put our trust in God and Jesus. God is going to sift the earth. And as we band together, we are going to share our resources, our information, our gifts, and our knowledge. And we already are, when you see the various visionaries and seers and prophets who are standing up in this hour and sharing what God has shown them, both word, image, and prophetic knowledge or interpretation of the Bible. So we are already doing that as a tight band, as it were. And I saw again this type of Nazi type theme that was starting to be played out. And it had to do again with world domination and control. And honestly, in this scenario, I was shown that shopkeepers were almost operating in a type of war scenario where they would want a lot of cash up front for space. In other words, not business as usual any longer in the world. And I was shown, though, that God is way ahead of us in all of this. And as we enter the places that we need to go, Jesus is actually sitting ahead of us in the chair waiting for us to catch up at each stage of the journey. And he has already provided and set up everything that we will need for this time. So he has prepared many of us in advance. He has prepared places of safety in advance. He has prepared people in advance. And there's going to be a lot of safety and protection and physical resources in the world that we are already planned for and prepared for by God. So we do not have to fear too much. We have to follow the promptings of the Holy Spirit, and that we are going to band together and share our resources, knowledge, and information so that we work tightly and cohesively for God at this difficult hour.